LASIK eye surgery has had an interesting trajectory. What started out as a lab accident is now one of the most popular elective procedures in America. Millions of patients have changed their lives in just 30 minutes since it was FDA approved in 1999.
LASIK is a two-laser procedure. The first laser creates what we call a flap in the cornea. And then the second laser is used after we lift up that flap and then laser underneath the flap and then lay the flap back down.
That's Dr. Robert S. Fetter, professor of ophthalmology and chief of corneal and external disease services at Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine. Before LASIK came on the market, a different laser procedure called PRK was the standard. Instead of the flap that's created by LASIK, PRK completely removes the outer layer of cells from the cornea to reshape the tissue underneath.
And because there's no flap, there's no chance for flap displacement or wrinkles in the flap or cells growing under the flap or inflammation of the flap. All the risks related to flap making go away because there is no flap. Another way to look at this PRK versus LASIK is LASIK, if you were going to put underground sprinkling in your front lawn, you could roll up the grass, do the work, and then lay the grass back down. The next day it would look like a normal front lawn. PRK, you take the grass out, you do the work, and you plant grass seed. So the next day it looks like a dirt-filled lawn. But by a month, they would look the same as the LASIK eye.
Many LASIK patients can see more clearly the very next day after surgery, while PRK can take up to a month to heal and correct vision. Because of this fast recovery, LASIK has quickly become the go-to option. And though LASIK has one of the highest satisfaction rates of all elective procedures at over 90%, all surgeries come with risks. For the small percentage of patients who experience negative outcomes, the damage can be life-changing. Brianna Coria had only ever heard good things about the surgery. And as someone who had worn glasses since she was 5, LASIK sounded like a dream procedure.
As soon as I found out that I could get rid of glasses forever and get rid of contacts forever, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, who wouldn't want to do that? Like growing up, like my glasses, I mean, I was close to a -10 when I finally wound up getting LASIK with pretty nasty astigmatism. So vision was really bad. Anybody that knows me knows that my glasses were like so thick, it was laughable.
If the bullying Coria experienced growing up wasn't enough motivation, her promising career in law enforcement became the final push she needed. So the 26-year-old began researching the ins and outs of the procedure. A big part of LASIK's high success rate is making sure each patient is a good candidate. A person's poor health or medical history can take them out of the running.
A perfect example is a dry eye. If a patient has a really dry eye, and I'm not just saying dry feeling, I'm saying diagnosed by an eye doctor that you're tear deficient or that you have exposure of the eye that could cause dryness, LASIK makes that worse. So the dryness that you're suffering with, LASIK won't help that. It'll make it worse. If the eye is too nearsighted or too farsighted, it may be beyond the scope of what the laser can treat. Another example would be if the patient has a history of retinal detachment or risks of retinal detachment, maybe family history or changes in the retina, LASIK surgery may not be so good for that patient.
Additionally, if the cornea is already thinner than average, LASIK can make it even worse and cause distorted vision and pain. There's a whole list of items that need to be evaluated by the surgeon during a consultation visit. If you're unsure about the doctor's evaluation, it's always a good idea to get a second opinion, since it could mean the difference between perfect vision and a life-altering mistake. But how do you know when you've done enough research? Coria felt like she had done her best, using all of the tools at her disposal both online and in person.
I thought that I had done the best research that I could, just scouring the internet and, doing all of that and bringing those concerns to my eye doctor and saying, hey, this is something I'm interested in, but I don't want to lose my eyes. Like, I don't want to go blind, because this is what I'm seeing online. And my doctor's like, oh, like, That's not something you have to worry about. It happens to such a small percentage of people. And the people that happens to, they probably went to some kind of like a back alley kind of surgeon or a Groupon surgeon. And then not only that, they probably didn't even follow their post-op instructions. So just go to a reputable place, follow your post-op recovery instructions, and you'll be fine. Don't even worry about it.
Armed with newfound confidence, Coria went in for a consultation. They told her she was a perfect candidate and asked how soon she would like to schedule an appointment. Since first being approved, Lasik has only gotten better. Major improvements like active tracking systems have made the procedure safer and more effective.
If patients are asked to look at a blinking light, but they look a little above it or a little below it, we have an active tracking device that's tracking the movement, so every laser spot is in the right place.
But while Fetter has access to the most up-to-date technology, this standard isn't a requirement. Staying on the cutting edge of this procedure is expensive, which means that some doctors could be operating with older, less accurate equipment. Still, with more than a 90% success rate, who would think that they'd fall into that small, unlucky group, especially after doing everything right? Coria went in for her surgery and knew what to expect for her recovery. Though it was quick, there's still some pain and discomfort involved in the first few hours after the procedure. When she woke up the next day, excited to experience life without glasses, there was a little blurriness, but nothing to worry about.
I did see these weird little like flecks in my vision. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I haven't that's not something I've seen before, like almost like TV static. And I'm like, that's really strange. I haven't noticed that before. But again, I was like, not even 24 hours after the surgery. It's probably supposed to be like that. And then I wind up picking up my phone and I'm seeing a weird drop shadow on like text, on like my text messages from people. And I'm like, God, that's weird. That's really strange. And then I'm like scrolling on TikTok and I'm seeing like a weird, almost like double of the picture and the text. It's like just seeing double of something else, but kind of in like a transparent way. It's like you're almost like crossing your eyes all the time.
However, it still hadn't been even 24 hours after her surgery, so Coria decided to trust the process and continue following her post-op instructions. After a couple of days, some of the blurriness eased, but her vision at night had gotten much worse.
As a police officer, you need to go into situations where it may be dark, or, you need to go into a dark room or a dark basement or, something like that. And I was like, I cannot safely go back to work like this. This is freaking me out. So I called the doctor and I was like, hey, doc, I'm freaking out. Can I please come back in? Can you look at my eyes? Because I'm not better and I have to go back to work tomorrow. And he was like, yep, come back in.
But as Coria sat in his office and explained her worsening symptoms, she says he was quick to dismiss them as a normal part of the healing process. He suggested that she take a few more days off work. But when nothing had improved during that time, Coria was told these vision issues would probably resolve in a few months. Since she wasn't able to perform her duties, Coria went on short-term disability with the hope that her sight would improve as her eyes continued to heal. After 5 months, she sought out a third opinion. The new doctor confirmed her fears. There was damage, and it was irreversible.
He said, the area that they corrected on you is too small. So when your pupils get larger, because there's a lack of light, it goes over that area that was corrected. So you're seeing undercorrected vision and your old vision, which was bad, at the same time. So that's why you can't see at night. That's why you have double vision. That's why you have text ghosting and like those fuzzy images, especially in darker environments or dimly lit kind of environments. This is permanent. It's not going to get any better for you. There isn't a surgery that you can go and fix this for you. You just got to kind of really learn to live with it.
So after a total of 9 months, Coria chose to medically retire from her career in law enforcement.
I wound up meeting with my union at the time, and we discussed all of my options, and I had a meeting with HR about potential accommodations. But let's be as honest as possible. How many accommodations can you give to a street cop? I'm walking around carrying multiple weapons on me at all times, and I need to act in a moment's notice. God forbid anything happens. And that's on me and it's on the department. You know what I mean? Like it was very unsafe to even think about accommodations for myself being on the street.
Despite doing everything right, Coria ended up as one of the few patients who've been disabled by LASIK surgery. She's still working on figuring out what she wants her new life path to be, but has found purpose in her online advocacy. Coria uses social media to raise awareness for the very real risk people face when choosing to have this eye surgery. Since many of these dangers come from the flap that's created during surgery, Fetter says people can avoid some of these fears by opting for PRK instead. Though it's a slower recovery and it has its own dangers that should be clearly understood by patients, PRK surgery could be a better alternative.
What they need to know is you'll have about 70% improvement at a week and about 90% improvement at a month. And the last 10% would be over a 6-month period. So while the vision improvement is front-loaded, it's not like LASIK where in 2 or 3 days you're seeing 100%. So you have to be prepared for a longer postoperative recovery with PRK. But in the long run, for a particular patient with, say, a thin cornea or a small cornea or whatever the case might be, PRK might be the better way to go.
As with any procedure, it's important to research your options, weigh the risks, and go to a physician you trust. You can find more information about Dr. Robert Fetter, Brianna Coria, and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. For more behind the scenes, follow Radio Health Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. I'm Elizabeth Westfield.